I am joined today by Shane Caudell and Lisa Kirby, and I am Kim Pritchett. If you are not familiar with our team, then we'll take that moment just to introduce ourselves. Shane's the director. Lisa is our deputy director, marketing and outreach and communications. As with all our past user groups, if this is the first time you are joining us, this is being recorded and that recording's in session. We will be posting this playback to our website, and there's a specific area of the website where you can find past user group playback. We also will be sending this out to anyone that is part of our user group distribution list. And if you want to get on that list, you can shoot me an email or put a message in the chat. If you didn't get the invitation directly this time, somebody forwarded it to you, that type of thing. And without further ado, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Shane. And just a reminder to please hold your questions, not entering them into the Q&A. Hold those questions until we get to that segment. And we would love to see what kind of questions you have related to the topics that are going to be covered today. So go ahead and take it over, Shane.
January 18th, 2023 user group. And again, Happy New Year and glad everybody is here with us today. Got some fun stuff to do within the next 45 minutes or so. Just a couple really cool things that I want to show you, some things that have been coming up, a couple updates. So let's get right to it. Pretty simple eVA updates and demonstration, and then answer your questions. So let me dive into the eVA updates portion here. Just a couple things we'll cover. I'll read them through real quick, and then I'll jump back up to the top, because the first 2 points at the top are more talking points, and then we'll get into the demonstration piece. So we're going to cover today just a real quick update on hypercare, where we're at, what we're doing, and the de-escalation of that, which is we're putting our plans together for that at this point. VILT training, which the acronym there is Virtual Instructor-Led Training. So having real instructors, real people coming back and doing that. I'll talk about that very briefly. Then we're going to do a demo. We're going to stay focused in the P2P module for most of the session today. We're going to look at the favorites feature, kind of show you guys that. We're going to touch to kind of build into the favorites feature, talk about universal search, which has tripped us up a little bit. It is powerful, but I want to show you that and kind of talk about that conceptually. And then if some concepts around that, and then grid updates. And there are grids all over the eVA module and how we can do updates to those that are custom to us to remove fields and do some things that may make those grids, depending on where you are in eVA, a little bit more user-friendly for you. We're going to talk about allocation templates. It's very specific to the requisition and doing defaults there. If you remember from your old life, you used to have, or some of you, maybe not all of you, but some of you might have had a default that was based on, we called it, doesn't make much sense anymore, but it used to be called by sense organization. It was basically like a department or a unit or a group, right? And you as a user, if you were in an agency or entity, you might have been broken out into many little different groups. And if you, as a user, were assigned to that group, you had your own defaults. That really doesn't exist in the new platform. And the way that you do accounting defaults is building templates. I think they're pretty powerful. It does require some steps on your part. If you're somebody that really doesn't change your accounting allocations, you're going to have to do that every time. But for those of you that have some complexity, maybe have some variable, I'm going to show you some ways to do that and set up all sorts of templates and how to apply them and where you can create them and things like that. There's multiple places where you can create them. We're going to talk a little bit around the allocation. Actually, that is also not what I want to do. How did I do that? Mass edit will come in with the allocations. So back to this, while allocation templates, you could see where my mind was. Allocation templates, you're absolutely in a type of mass edit feature when you apply those templates, and we'll look at that. The last thing I want to look at is blanket purchase orders. And I'm going to show you the functionality around blanket purchase orders with some warnings about using that. But I want to show you the functionality, and maybe it would apply to you, and we'll deal with that when we get to it. And then our final thing, for those of you that do any type of using the contracts module in eVA, contract administration, anything like that in eVA, we made a little change that came in this past Friday, and the ability to update a certain set of fields on a contract without having to do an amendment, which is really great. And we're going to jump over to that. Not really a lot I'm going to show you per se, but I'm going to jump to the screen and show you the fields that are impacted. And then Lisa's going to keep me in bounds if I get crazy with that. So again, man, you're seeing lots of editing on the fly, getting my dates right, and making sure my actual agenda for today is correct. So sorry about that. I know, you guys out there with kids absolutely understand. So let's jump up. I'm just going to leave this on the screen for a minute before I actually dive into eVA. Let's jump up to the top, the hypercare update. We are absolutely still in hypercare mode, which, for those of you that were with us back in November, when we did the shift from our old platform to our new platform, we put up some forms. We wanted all of you guys, as Kim has been mentioning, if you had a specific question, a problem, an enhancement request, a comment, you needed training, you needed help, to drive those requests through that form. You might have noticed a little bit of uncoupling with that, particularly for those of you, just for lack of a better term, procurement leadership. You may be getting more direct outreach from your account executive that's assigned to your organization. You may be doing more of that. Kind of those one-on-one connections and reaching out to your AE, or maybe even somebody on my team directly. Maybe you've gone to customer care, for something beyond some of the hypercare stuff, and been helped or routed, to somebody that can help. And it's starting to feel a little bit more traditional. So technically, certainly through the month of January and looking like just, maybe even a couple weeks into February, we're still going to certainly be under our hypercare model with those forms up, with our teams that are helping you guys as users identify issues, walk you through certain scenarios, record your enhancement requests, things like that. That's still going on, but we are in the process here internally working on de-escalation of the hypercare teams and getting us back to what we call steady state. Steady state is quite simply, I have a customer care team that reports to me. They are state employees, and it's basically, turning over the intake of issues to that team. They solve a lot of issues for us without having to escalate them. But then we do have traditional escalation patterns. You're certainly my team, the AEs, whoever else. There's certainly a lot of involvement across DPS when we're supporting our users. But, getting away, starting to break those teams up, allowing or having the eVA customer care group, consume all those issues. And then, following kind of what our steady state escalation patterns are. So that's absolutely something we are working on. More notes on that will come out. There could be some things that we do internally that you don't even notice as we start to turn certain areas of the functionality over to customer care. You may not even see an announcement. It doesn't, when you report or submit an issue, it just might go initially to a different team than to what it's been going to now. So stay tuned for all that. We're 60-some, 70-some days from go live. This was a huge enterprise system, lots of users, lots of suppliers, lots of issues coming in. So it's going to take us a while to uncouple that and get back to normal. But I just wanted to kind of discuss that with you guys. We appreciate everyone's support, and we absolutely appreciate everyone and how you guys have gone about this transition. You've been reasonable, you've been patient. I hope you found that you've gotten good support, and it is greatly, greatly, greatly appreciated that you've gone along on this journey with us. There's also some things that happened in hypercare that I think overall were beneficial. You might feel differently depending on your organization. And certainly, we kind of asked at the entity level for issues to be centralized at the entity level. That certainly, there's been some discussions about, well, when can we tell our users that they don't have to centralize everything to us? I don't know. You might find that beneficial. You may run your operation like that from here going forward, centralizing your issues. Certainly, there's benefits that, at your leadership level, at a procurement shop, that there's an understanding, especially for you guys that are larger, what issues are being reported by your end users, and continuing that centralization forever and ever, amen. So those are some things as we work over the next couple of weeks and months to decouple that I'm sure we'll have more discussions on that. So again, just an update on that. Stay tuned. Just something we're conscious of as we settle out from the implementation and get ourselves back, certainly here at DPS, to normal operations. Next thing there, very excited to announce that our virtual instructor-led training program, I said February, that's really when it's starting, but quite honestly, the schedule for the entire year is in the learning management system here at DPS. If you go to the eVA website and go to buyer training, you can click there, and it shows you how to get into the LMS and to find those things. But the entire schedule for all of 2023 is actually available, and it starts in February. Now, we really want our focus to be users who haven't had virtual instructor-led training. Certainly there's liable to be lots of you, or you have staff that has not been through any instructor-led training. And, now that they've been in eVA for a couple months or 2 months or even a couple weeks, looking to get some reinforcement to whatever role they have, but very excited to begin that training again. We really didn't do any instructor-led training in November, December, and January due to the transition, but very excited to get that training started up again as well. And then again, as we normalize and kind of pull out, of the hypercare model, training requests, if you have for lack of a better term, as needed or ad hoc training request, certainly float those to us. You could still send them through the buyer request form, or you could reach out to somebody on my team or your account executive if you have additional training needs. But again, excited to get the virtual instructor-led training cranked back up. And then this is always a good time for an advertisement. If you have new people coming on, if you have, somebody who hasn't maybe been through any of the eVA training, we have these learning pathways and journeys depending on what your role is. You start out with that self-guided training and some things where it's self-paced and you're doing that yourself, and it's everything from guides to videos to how-tos and all hands-on things and all sorts of stuff. So really, really, really encourage you, you yourself personally or your staff, and certainly anybody that's new to your organization, to start them through those learning journeys. Builds a really, really good foundation in eVA from a training perspective. Also, on the eVA training page, there are quick reference guides. They've been updated a lot. A lot of them have been touched recently and within the last 2-3 months. you guys have driven us for those updates or requested a certain guide. I know one of the things that's being worked on by our P2P lead, Sarah Lewis, is kind of, again, we're gonna touch on this, but a functional guide around blanket purchase orders. Doesn't mean it's right for your organization, mind you. Doesn't mean it's right for your organization, but certainly you'll have an idea functionally what it does. All right, we'll get into that. All right. So I'm going to shift out of, I'm going to stop sharing really quick because I want to get out of the PowerPoint. We don't need the PowerPoint anymore. And I want to make sure I'm sharing. Let me move this to here. And I'm going to share my web browser.
And while he's shifting gears and getting this pulled up, just a reminder, this again is talking about system capability. Like, what are we capable of? And that's always a great starting point for then you to go back and have an internal discussion within your organization about what fits your business practices and what your requirements are within your procurement department, and working with your account executive if you need some policy consulting and review to kind of weigh in on your processes and that type of thing. So keep it in mind.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, Kim. So real quick before that, I've got EVA up here. I am in UAT. UAT has a different color than production so that I know I'm in UAT. Production is blue, has blue kind of headlines, and UAT has green. So we really like that so we can tell where we are. Real quick, let me shift to here. Just real quick, I mentioned training and all this stuff. If you didn't know, eva.virginia.gov, you could go, there's numerous ways you can navigate to this, but one of the quick ways, I buy for Virginia, EVA buyer training, ta-da! And there's kind of everything you need. There's the description of the learning journeys. There's the link to VILT where it gives you kind of the steps for how to get into the LMS and sign up for one of those instructor-led trainings. And then EVA resources, might as well touch on this as well. These are all our quick guides, and you see all the updates. Look at all those awesome updates, going back into December and November and in late November, and all sorts of changes that we made, including some videos on EVA reporting, but all sorts of cool stuff. And then if you want, now these are recordings of the VILT, but if you are so inclined, you can check out the recordings and stuff like that. But again, just wanted to show you that real quick. So that's kind of reinforces our training. All right. So let's dig into some demos here. Let's dig into some demos in the last, 27 or so minutes that we have. I just want to show you some stuff. We're really going to start around the favorites feature, but where I kind of digging into that and tacking into that feature, I want to talk about what we call universal search. That is this search screen that's embedded at the very, very top, usually right under your, or not usually, it is right under your name. So you'll notice, like if I switch to browse requisitions, universal search is still here, and then you've got a specific browse requisition search here. All right, so universal search, just a couple kind of key points to this, because we have had some individuals talk about, oh, I used the search, and they're talking about what we would call the universal search, and they didn't find something. They keyed in something and it didn't come back. Universal search tends to be really good. Let's see if my save is still there. No, here, let me grab one real quick. Go grab this. You can see I got some blanket requisitions ready to go there. Universal search is really good if you kind of know the transaction ID, right? So I can key that in and it's an exact match. Now it hit the first one as an exact match, and then it gives me some other combinations based on what I have there. It's not perfect. You'll notice it's pulling things down here as well, but it tends to be a lot better on exact match and things like that if you know or have your transaction ID, because some of the feedback, some of the tickets that we've seen, well, I tried to search for our ROX and I didn't find it. And maybe a number was off. It wasn't an exact match or something like that. I think the other area universal search is really good for, and I'll use my favorite little company here. It's pretty solid. In this case, I'm searching for a specific supplier, and it was able to get a quick hit right on supplier. And then the next level, it pulled orders to that supplier, right? So, and there's an ampersand there. So if I would have typed AND, that could have messed up that search, right? Or it would have given me potentially more options. So again, just kind of a couple quick hits on universal search. If you don't return the results here, I was looking for a specific requisition and it didn't come up, or I didn't find the exact match I want, don't give up. Make sure if you're searching for a rec, come to browse recs. If you're searching for an order, go into browse order, do the advanced search and drive down, making sure you're driving down into some things before you just throw up your hands and give up and, oh, I couldn't find it. But, it does have some benefit to it. Just knock that out so it doesn't mess me up while I'm doing the rest of the demo. So kind of staying with that, one of the features I wanted to remind everybody of and make sure you're using and utilizing is your ability to edit grids, your returned results, when you're in a particular area. So I'm going to go into search products, and this is where we have like our contract catalogs loaded, our punch outs, things like that. Oh boy, I'm hoping we don't get the migration doesn't mess me up here. I am being a bad boy and I'm in UAT on Wednesday when you're not supposed to be. So, hopefully they don't blow me up with a migration while I'm doing this. But, you come to the search products, you get all sorts of stuff in all sorts of fields. And this is true, browse rec. This is true, like if I'm looking at sourcing projects, even browse suppliers, right? I'm getting all sorts of things, all sorts of column headers. Are these valuable to me? So I've got this horizontal scroll as well, right? I've got this, very long scroll too, right? Things are coming off the page and there's maybe some stuff that doesn't have any value to me or I just don't care about. So a couple of things you could do is coming down, usually in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see this little wheel, a widget, wheel, whatever you want to call it. You can click on that. This allows you to expand the amount of results that come back on a grid. I think the max is like 50 or 100, something like that. You can't do 1,000 or 1,000,000, but you could change the returned results. That's one thing you can do. And then you can also adjust fields. So this is like a shopping area. So, I don't really care about images. I'll cut those off. I love all the selecting. So just by hitting that toggle, I cut that off. Maybe I care about SWAM. I could grab SWAM and I could move it. So why don't I put SWAM here? And you'll see it's kind of updating there for me. And I really like the contract. Let's bring that. Maybe right next to supplier. And I don't care about that. I don't care about that. I don't care about that. I don't care about, you can just kind of knock out stuff, right? And then if I'm feeling good about this, you just simply click out of that, and then you'll notice I've got my grid updated up here. So I've moved SWAM categories there. I moved the contract stuff here, my supplier information, but I've really, excuse me, trying to get on my scroll. I've really lowered my scroll, right? I really lowered lowered my scroll a lot. And then, like the contract subtype and some things like that have come in. So it gives me this ability to adjust these grids. And it can be really helpful and really make things more user-friendly for you. You can always go back in at any time. You can reset. You can download these grids. So if I hit reset, I get a little warning, and it does a reset for me. And there I am. I'm back to what the eVA default is for that. So again, you're not restricted. Let's go into Browse Rec. You're not restricted just to, it's pretty much every single grid. So same thing here. Oh, I just noticed. Oh, that's interesting. Oops. Same thing here. I can come in, and this is my Browse Rec page, right? So, ooh, that reference number, that's handy. What do I want to drop? Well, I kind of like all those things. So maybe I wouldn't drop everything, but maybe I want this reference number to be closer. So I'll move that here, right? The reference number to be closer, or the organization to be closer, or we're not using invoicing now. So I could drop that, kind of out of the way. If, the ERP requisition number, well, if that's not important to me, I can, drop that toward the bottom. So you get the idea. The fact that I can really change things up on here. Let's see if I do a sort. Oh, don't have any there. Returning any reference numbers, which is fine. Oh, I bet you they will if I reset my search.
And Shane, the only thing I wanted to jump in and just mention is that
Sure.
the ability to change the grid size right now, that is restricted to our administrative users for whatever reason, but I'll make a note of that. The other features are
so
still
this
available.
Is restricted.
Yes.
I'm glad you said that. Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate that.
Yep, no problem. And I will make a note though, so that way we can.
What about freezing the grid header? Can everybody do that?
Yeah, they can freeze the grid header, change the location, turn them off and on, but it's just the grid quantity.
So I really like that too. Did you see what happened when I froze the grid header? This is maybe the one thing you definitely want to do. See what happens when I freeze the header? Like it keeps the column headings up for when I scroll. I would probably.
And there's a couple of questions coming over that are relevant, which I think it's an awesome trick is one of the comments made. But are you able to save these changes? And the answer is yes. You can lock the grid. And then are you able to rearrange the columns? Yes, but changing the grid page size, no. In Tracy.
Yeah, so you can't. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. And thank you to Lisa. You can change. But again, rearranging the columns, see the little, when it goes 4 ways, right?
Yep.
So let me just move that. And look how instantly it did it. Boom. It's doing it in real time, right? It's doing that in real time. And freezing that grid header, I would suggest doing, look how nice that is, because if you don't, and you have more than, if you have a lot of results, watch when I knock this out, it goes away, right? Like you lose the grid header. And, so now what is that column again? I'm not sure what that column is. You can simply lock it. And then that way you get that nice scroll. It's like in Excel, freezing the top row in Excel. I'm actually going to leave that.
And then there's been a repeated comment and questions about having the date to display. That is a future enhancement request that we have logged. We will prioritize that against
like the
requests.
Order date or the create date.
Trying to make enhancements for columns that are not currently part of this display. We've absolutely logged date as one of those. And if you have any types of suggestions along those lines of ways that it's going to improve the usability and just the functionality for you as a user, you can always use that hypercare form, the buyer assistance request form, to put in that suggestion so it gets logged. And as we do with all suggestions and enhancements, you are driving the changes that we make, and then they have to get prioritized in terms of impact, importance, just priority in general, whether it is an
Absolutely.
emergency or not. So those things, are forthcoming. We can't necessarily give you a specific time frame, but other than to tell you for sure the date has been logged as one of those requests. So thank you.
Absolutely. So keeping this train running here today. Another thing I wanted to dig into is the favorites feature. And I hope you guys are using this because I think it's very powerful. So I reset everything, hopefully here, and had a clean. A lot of times you'll notice some of your searches, if you're in the same session, you notice I had some things, and it saves as you move around some of the things you've done, but hopefully I've got everything good and reset here so you can see this. One of the things you might have noticed, particularly like I'll use the browse requisition screen. When I go to browse requisitions, it gives me kind of everything. And if I just want to see my requests, you have to click that, hit search, and then that cleans it up and it just gives me the ones I have done, right? And when you come into a fresh session, it's like that every time. You got to click my request and hit search. And maybe you do a certain, you have a certain supplier, right? Or a certain commodity of a requisition you want to check out, right? So why don't we do it with, I want to see all the requisitions, just using them like crazy today. So to Blue Ridge Fence, they're an active supplier. You can see that there. I'll select them and I'll hit search. And so this, I use Blue Ridge Fence a lot for testing. So this returned for me my request for this supplier. And maybe this is something I'm coming back to constantly because I want to check the status. Oh, I got one in draft. This one's ordered. Oh my gosh, I need to receive on this one, or blah, 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 whatever it is. So you don't do receiving out of the requisition screen, just to be clear. I can, when I'm on this screen or any screen, and I've done some customization. So in this case, it's pretty basic. I've checked my request screen. I've put a supplier in there. I can hit favorites. I can call this, Blue Ridge Rec Search. And I can add a page. All right. And I can add a page. Now so to show you how this works, I'm going to reset this. I'm going to go back home. All right. So I'll reset that search. I'm going back home. Now I can come to favorites, and you'll notice I have all sorts of favorites. There's the Blue Ridge Rec Search. I can edit it and update it if I want. I can delete it, or if I simply click on it, it takes me immediately to that screen and refires what I did. All right. So you guys might find one, but there are not too many combinations that you cannot put together that you could then save a search for. So as an example, with my huge list of stuff, if I'm a requisitioner, I did my rejected requests. So by rejected, like it got denied, right? If something happened to it. So I built a search for this. So I could click that. Let's see if I got any. Oh, I do. Look at that. So I can very quickly get to a rejected request, something that got denied. And that is a favorite for me. So something I can hit really fast. And you can do it. You'll notice I'm all over the place. Now I have some admin capabilities. So I got user, but I've got, like, I did one in purchase order. I did one for those of you that use queue management. I did one for my pending validations. I get all sorts of validations come in and they drive me crazy. And you guys with your to-do list, and it's so much. And we've had some bugs, quite honestly, of all sorts of crazy things getting in your to-do list. Well, all I care about is doing rec approvals. Well, I do requisition approvals. All this other junk that gets in there, it could have been a bug. It could have been, something somebody else is handling. So I built a special one just for rec approval. So if I hit that, it drives me in. And now I'm in my pending validations. And it's me as the leader, comes to me. It's an eVA purchase rec is the process. That's what I'm looking at, and to be validated. So again, don't panic. I'm in UAT. I'm not holding up this many procurements. This isn't real, but you get the idea. Well, I have 83 that need my approval in UAT, but again, it's UAT. Trust me, I'm not damaging the procurement process on my end, but you get the concept here that I was able just to float these out to recs that I need to get to for whatever reason to get in and do an eVA approval. So again, that's the favorites feature, all sorts of cool stuff. So back into the procurement area, and they're grouped by the headings here, right? Back into the procurement area, just to show you some more examples. That is a commodity code and ordered status. That returns the status is ordered, and I pulled that from over here, right? My advanced search, my request with a particular commodity. Shocker that it's alcoholic beverages, right? But you get the concept there, I hope. And on any screen that you're on, you know, my contracts, excuse me, not mine, let's go to browse. You know, browse contracts, the same thing. Maybe you have a particular supplier, and he probably has.
And while Shane's typing in that supplier, there's been a couple questions of rapid fire movement going on. And the great thing is the playback is going to be available for you guys to go and play back this user group. And so you can slow down and rewatch his steps. So sorry if you're multitasking and doing that type of thing, but please rely on that playback.
Yep. And so my Blue Ridge Fence and Window vendor, they have 2 contracts. Maybe it's a contract that I constantly want to be in contact with. I want to edit. I want to play with it, or, you know, whatever. Again, I'm in the contracts area and I say Blue Ridge Fence contracts, and I can add a page. And then you'll notice in contracts, look, I got the Blue Ridge Fence contracts there. And we're going to come back to that in just a minute. Moving on for the sake of time, because we are kind of starting to push up against the 11 o'clock hour. I do want to talk about allocation templates. Now, this is where I'm, you know, allocating, doing that accounting allocation. And I talked about that in the lead up to this, you know, from a perspective of I don't really have defaults anymore. So how can I set those up? How can I set those up? Well, let's go into a rec and let's see if I can find. Oh, see, it saved that search because that's the last thing I was in. Let me do a reset here. Here we go. I got one in draft. Do my request here. Aha. All right. So my request here, I got one in draft, and we know that if we're going to do an allocation, and I'm just keying in some data here. We can do that immediately at the line item, you know, when we're, oh, got to get a commodity in there. We can do that immediately at the line when we hit, it's telling me it's non-catalog, when we hit save, and it opens up the allocation screen, and I can manually do those allocations. And then I can add splits and things like that. The other thing, oh, let's go here. Excuse me. Let me just get that in there and hit save and close and get out of there. So the other thing we can do is we can very simply get our line item information in, hit save and close, and get all our lines back. And we can, a couple minutes here. There we go. So I got a 3-line requisition now. So the other thing I can do is I can set allocations for all my lines, 1 or 2 of my lines, kind of using this line select feature. And as soon as I hit that, you'll notice some options come up. So if I hit that top screen, it selects all lines, or I can hit a combination. And I can hit this option that says set allocations. So this allows me en masse to set allocations for those lines. Now I have a template, some pre-built templates that I can do, right? And I'll show you how to build those in a minute. So I had a bunch in there, or I could add an allocation just right there. on the fly, right? Now let me put a fiscal year in. And I don't know, I don't have any other required fields in my test area, but let's, just for kicks and grins, there we go. We'll add that in, right? So I did a fiscal year in an organization. And I can, apply and close. And that'll apply that setting to those two lines, right? And then I could do my third line and set an allocation, right? And I could pull from a template or add a line in and do it like I did. So let's say I do the same allocation every single time. I do the same one every single time, right? Or I have multiples. So while I'm in a line item, I could do new template. I could give it a name. Counting and naming, everything that you want. My other suggestion would be you could actually put like, the codes in, or, so what the codes are, which ones you're keying in, 609 CC and 1000 fund. And you could add that in. So you can be very specific with your name. And I don't know, you get the idea. Let's see if I have cost. Remember I'm in a test area, so I have so many done, but you get the idea that I can name it very specific to what I've keyed in. And I could save that template, right? So now it's saved. And I can apply it and close. All right. Ta-ta. And that adds it to that line. So let me edit the line so you can see it. You can see that. See how I got applied there on that line. Right. There they are right there at the end. You could reset allocations from there if you want, but you get the concept. Now, just to show you, set allocations. Could hit that drop down list, and the one I saved is right there. Bada bing, bada boom. There it comes. Okay, so you can save templates on the fly while you're keying in orders, right? Or while you're keying in line items, while you're keying in line items. So that's one area you can do that. And again, you could do it to one line item, set your allocation. Do it to one or more line items and set allocation. You can do it to all. The other area to set up your templates, you don't have to be in a rec to set up your allocation templates. You can come to procurement. There is a browse allocations template area, just like browse rec, browse receipts, browse orders, or you can immediately go into create. If I go into browse the templates, you'll see all the templates that I've done. And look at this one. This is a great example here. Fund 0505, cost center 609, account. I just named it exactly what I keyed in. So I knew it's 505, 609, 13500, 2023. All right. Boom, 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 boom. I knew which one it was. Or you could, I did DGS template, EVA 609 template. But just to give you some ideas. So from here, you could edit the allocations, delete them, or create a new template. And when you edit, so this is the one I just did. If you edit, you'll notice it brings you into the screen. It looks very similar to what you were on. You could make those changes, hit save or save and close. Now I have access to multiple charts of accounts because of my ID. So again, for those of you that have access to those of you in more complex setups with multiple entities, be conscious of what chart of account you're using. So I have DGS, my EVA admin, and then I got an entity that's a test entity there for John Kapler. Some of you guys have met and heard John Kapler present on these meetings in the past. All right. So I'll close that. But that is allocation templates. Pretty simple. You can create and do those allocations in the line item. You can do ad hoc ones. You don't always have to save a template. You can just select all your lines and do a real quick allocation. But I would imagine for a lot of you, templates might be really, really handy.
And just a few questions related specifically to templates that I think are great to cover if we have a second.
Sure.
And then we'll
Yeah.
roll into some general Q&A if we have any. We've been answering things along the way.
Well, no, I
which
want to
has
do
been
blanket
great.
purchase orders. I'm going to take us a little bit past
Okay.
because I do.
Yeah, that's fine. Do allocation fields populate reports either in eVA or maybe in OFM? The answer is yes. Their allocation templates are part of the reports, the 200 series, I believe, if I'm remembering
200
correctly.
series. Yeah, it's just like that's no different than the past. If you apply that to a rec in a subsequent order, those will come back to you on the reports. Absolutely.
And then do you have to have a template to change multiple allocations at once? No, there is a
No.
edit all feature.
So going back to that rec, let me go back into it. No, I mean, you don't have to have a template, guys. Let me show you this again. So I'm going to change line 1 and line 3. I can hit set allocation and I can simply hit this plus, which gives me the allocation line, and I can do it and not save it as a template.
Yep.
If I want to save it as a template, you want to make sure you do new template, all right, to save it, but you don't have to do that. You can also do your splits this way as well, right? So I've added 2. So if I do 50, you want to make sure your percentages work out, right? So they equal 100%, but you can start doing your splits there as well. But I don't have to save it as a template. You don't.
And then is mass edit for allocations now available for approvers? Once the rec is submitted, is it then routed to an approver to complete the allocations? No, they have to be done in order for you not to get a blocking error. You have to have your allocation set.
I mean, not digging too into this. It is a little different with edit and who can edit. There are 2 spots, buyer inbox and queue management, where you can set up with edits, but that is different from the old system. We need to do our best to get those allocations set up front, unless you're utilizing this buyer inbox feature or the queue management feature, where users that are in those approval areas do have the ability to do edits.
And if you're an approver and those are new terms for you, reach out to your account executive.
So we're excited about that. So just some stuff I wanted to share with you. So it's 11:20. Those are the things I wanted to go over today. The favorites feature, the universal, and a little bit of universal search and the grid updates. I wanted to go over the allocation templates. I wanted to talk about blanket purchase orders, and I wanted to show you real quick on the contract screen that you can do updates in that contract header for those of you that are doing contract administration or soliciting and using the contracts module, that you can do those updates without doing an amendment.
And you guys have asked a couple specific questions. Remember, we want you to use the buyer assistance form so that you can get those questions answered by our correct hypercare team. And I will put that in the chat as the last thing that you guys will see before we wrap up today. And if there are questions that come from watching and rewatching, again, use that buyer assistance form and let us help you that way. And there was one more question about cardinal allocation fields currently functional and integrated with VDOT's cardinal. And that's something that, again, sounds specific.
That's very specific, yes.
So you want to go back and make sure that you talk with your account executive on how things are set up, and make sure that if you're not seeing certain fields that you need access to, and that's saying that your user profile is also set up.
Cool.
And we did go almost the full time today, but we had a lot of great conversation along the way. This is exactly the type of user group I think that really benefits everybody, because we are getting to see cool things that maybe you haven't seen before. It's sparking conversation, giving you ways to think about doing your job better, more efficiently, and in a different way than maybe you've been able to do before. So continue to explore the tool and use that user assistance form when you have questions. And we look forward to giving you our future dates, putting Shane on the spot. He and I are going to sit down and try and figure out for February, March, and April so that we can get ahead of our user groups going forward and plan to continue those on a monthly basis.
And our plan right now going forward is to do one every month. I mean, we kind of got into a bi-monthly schedule, but for the foreseeable future, we'll have a monthly user group meeting for you guys.
All right, guys. Well, thank you guys so much. Lisa, thank you for tag teaming with me on the back end so that we could get those questions answered. A playback for the user group will get circulated through those that receive it directly as part of being part of that user group list that we use in Constant Contact. It'll also get posted on the eVA website, and you can access that as well. And we'll be following up with an eVA Extra. So we're going to be putting some information into our kind of general communication. I won't say newsletter, but it's just an extra information that everybody needs to know. So keep an eye out for that as well.
Awesome.
And wish you the best remainder of January, whatever's left.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
And we will talk again soon. Thanks. Have a great day.